Tiffany. Welcome to the Book Skeptic. Today I'm talking about all the books I read in May. So I read a fair number of books this month, and what's exciting is I ended up reading two new genres, which was thriller and dark romance. The first book I read was Don't Go Down There. Spencer Edwards has a beautiful wife, two perfect children, and a sinister secret locked in his basement. When Andy Edwards discovers her husband isn't where he's supposed to be and isn't answering her calls or texts, a flurry of scenarios races through her mind. Is he hurt? Is he cheating? Is he dead? The truth, she soon finds out, is so much worse than she could have imagined. As she struggles to make sense of her new and chilling reality, she must decide whether to stand by the man she loves and help protect him, or walk away and let him pay for his sins. With time running out, the secret in the basement becomes more dangerous, and the spine-chilling truth becomes clear. If she makes the wrong decision, she stands to lose much more than her marriage. When their best-laid plans come back to haunt them, what will Spencer and Andy be willing to sacrifice to survive? This book definitely was not my thing. I had been very interested because, like I said, I wanted to expand, and I ended up doing that successfully by reading a thriller. But what sold me is the synopsis. It said, "This is a plot twist you won't see coming." And then it only took me to seeing other thrillers. They say the same thing, like it's just a way for you to pick up the book. But this book, I didn't like it. I hate books where there's really no one to root for. You can't, like, there's really no protagonist. It's like they're all bad guys, and I just didn't appreciate that. And I hated the ending. It really grossed me out, and just, no. I didn't like it, and I've even seen reviews of people who really like this author, but they said this was her worst. Like, yeah, I really, really didn't like it. So, unfortunately, this was my first attempt at a thriller, but I still do plan on reading thriller books. The next book I read was Fake Out, which is about a guy who has to fake a relationship when he has to go to a wedding. This book got the job done. It was pretty mediocre. Like, I really couldn't care less. It was just whatever. And the next book I read is the first dark romance book I've ever read, which is The Maddest Obsession. Now, I've never read this series. I decided to skip past book one because I just wasn't interested, but I kept seeing so many people praise this specific one, so I was like, okay, alright, I keep seeing people talk about it, so let's do it. She fears the dark. He rules it. Her dresses are too tight, her heels too tall. She laughs too loudly, eats without decorum, and mixes up most sayings in the book. Little do most know it's just a sparkly disguise, there to hide one panic attack at a time. Nobody can crack Gianna's facade. No one anyway, until he comes along. Most see a paragon of morality, a special agent upholding the law. In the New York underworld, others know him as a hustler, a killer. His nature as cold as the heart of ice in his chest. Christian Alistair has always followed the life plan he's envisioned in his youth, beneath the harsh lights of a frigid, damp cell. With a proclivity for order and the number 3, he's never been tempted to veer off course. But perhaps one should never say never. One winter night and their lives intertwine. She hates him, his stone-cold demeanor, his arrogance and too perceptive eye. But over the years, even as their games consist of insulting each other's looks and intelligence, she begins to live to play with him. Nowhere in Christian's plans had he ever prepared for Gianna. She's chaos embodied, not his type, and married, and none of that can stop his eyes from following her wherever she goes. All along, she doesn't even know that she's his frustration, his fascination, his maddest obsession. Now, this book, like I said, I have never read dark romance before. This was my first, and I will be honest, dark romance has never appealed to me. I've seen so many taboo synopses and concepts, and I'm like, whoa, what is this? Like, I had no interest. But this one, I was gonna give a try, and I really wasn't thinking I was gonna like it. Like, this one actually was pretty good. But I will say, I'm gonna be talking about other books later on than this. But of this particular genre, dark romance, this was definitely my least favorite. Like, it got the job done, but it just wasn't really my thing. One of the biggest problems for me was it just felt so depressing. She's trapped in these marriages, she's trapped in this life, and most of the time that I'm reading it, I'm like, why can't these men just do their own thing and leave the women alone? It was just very unfortunate for me. I just was like so bummed out. And I didn't like how Kiersten kind of was controlling her, and also I didn't like how he was so much smarter than her. Like, I definitely prefer a dynamic with a relationship to be more on equal ground. I didn't appreciate that. But over time, it did get better, and I did end up liking the ending, so I did enjoy the book, even though it was definitely hard. Like I said, it was better than I expected. I really thought every single dark romance was this really rough taboo sort of thing. Like, this was decent. Like I said, it just wasn't fully my thing. Like, it was readable, I guess. Also, another big thing of why I didn't like continue with the series is I hate Nico. At least from what I read of him in this book, like, he sounds awful, and I've heard terrible things about the other guy in the third book. So I'm just like, no thanks. Like, Kiersten was okay, I guess. It didn't work for me. The next book is a book I really, really enjoyed, and that was The Predator. What happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object in the field of death? In the dark underbelly of the mob, Tristan Kane has been an anomaly. As the only non-blooded member in the high circle of the Tenebrae outfit, he is an enigma to all, his skills unparalleled, his morality questionable, and his motives unknown. He is lethal and he knows it, as does Marana Vitalio, the genius extraordinaire daughter of the rival family. What Kane does with weapons, Marana does with computers. When a 20-year-old mystery resurfaces, Marana infiltrates Kane's house, intent on killing him, unaware of a tie that binds them together. Hate, heat, and history clash together with unexpected sparks. But something bigger, something worse is happening in their world, and despite their animosity, only they can fight it down. Like I said, I just happen to have a really great time with this book. I ended up reading it 4 stars. I just really enjoyed it. I am a little surprised though, because I remember seeing some sort of passage or something from a book that said that was The Predator, but apparently it wasn't. Like, this was a couple of months back, and so I was like, oh, that sounds terrible, and I kept hearing about this book, and it's like, who wants to read about a book about this guy intent on killing her? But you really gotta give it a try. Like, this one was so good. I had the best time with it, and I really liked their story together, how they worked alongside each other, and of course, when they were opposing each other. Just regardless, the whole thing was really good. I was not a fan of some of the sentence structure, the grammar, things like that. Like, the author had given a sort of thing where it's like, oh, well, she's really intelligent, so she says things weird, and it's like, I don't think that's the only reason why this is structured a little bit differently. But regardless, I ended up having a really good time with it. I did enjoy the plot. I just had a really good time. I do have to say, now this happens to do more with the kind of character dynamic that I really enjoy, the kind of love interest I enjoy. I way more preferred Dante as a character versus Tristan. Like, Tristan was fine, but just sometimes I was like, oh, can we stop with this? Like, I just really appreciated Dante. I wasn't a big fan of Amara though. I happened to not be a big fan of her. She just didn't appeal to me. I was very pleasantly surprised with this book. This book, I definitely think it's more at the top of the books that I've read so far this year, so I'm very happy about that. And what I did like about The Predator versus the Maddest Obsession is there was way more of an equal dynamic between Marana and Tristan, which I appreciated. And also, what was good about Tristan as a character is he was a foe against many. Like, he was like one of the strongest men there. Like, it had nothing to do with male versus female, you know? So I appreciated that. and just her intelligence, the whole thing. And I just thought about the fact, for some reason, every single time I was picturing the characters, I kept forgetting that Marana has glasses, even though for my whole life I've had glasses, and it's just only been the past couple years I don't wear them. So I don't know what the problem is, that every single time she's like, and then I put my glasses on, or I wiped out my glasses, I corrected my glasses, and I'm like, she wears glasses, come on. I don't know why, I just couldn't recall that she was doing that. So it was kind of interesting, things like that. But again, really good book. I was really happy about it. And it was just so much lighter, which I know sounds a little bit wild to hear someone say, oh yeah, this guy's intent on killing her, but it's way lighter than this other book. You really gotta just trust me on it. It's really good. And the next book I read was The Reaper, which is the sequel to The Predator. Now, I won't go into spoilers for it because obviously you gotta read the first book, but like I said, I had a great time with The Predator. And at first I was having a really good time with The Reaper as well, but very quickly on, it started getting real boring. Here's my problem. I liked when they were in the penthouse, I liked the places they would go, the environments they were in the first book. And at first they had the first book environment throughout the book. But then we go to Tenebrae, and I did not like Tenebrae at all. I didn't like the mansion, I didn't like the other characters, and just the whole dynamic just didn't work for me. I hated the plot. The plot was not good, because it's like, I don't know, it was weird, because it was like the whole plot, the whole point of why characters were working together in the first book, that's barely in the book. So it's like, they kind of talk about it sometimes, but just in general, this one was just so bad. And then the title character, the Reaper, that was just a ridiculous thing. And every time they were like having reveals for it, I'm like, oh, this is so cliche. I've seen that before. Typical trope, blah, blah, blah. Like, there was nothing revolutionary about it. And again, another more of grammar being bad, sentence structure being odd, and the way they would format certain sayings. It's like, what's going on? So what's really weird to me is the fact that, like, it would make more sense that now that Tristan made the decision that he made at the end of the first book, it would make more sense that now you would see better dynamics with their characters, and I guess you do, but it wasn't a drastic shift, and it just didn't work for me. I was so disappointed. I had such a good time. And that's always my problem with sequels. It's like, it's either the sequel is amazing, the sequel is subpar, or the sequel is so bad that now it taints your enjoyment of the first book. And unfortunately, that's what The Reaper was for me. I was just like, oh, okay, here's how we're ending their story. And even though I had planned on continuing this series, nope, not after The Reaper. I was like, I am done. Get me out of here. But fortunately, I'm not done with dark romance. So next month, because I have finished them as of I'm filming this, but I'm not going to spoil you guys on what books they are, but I look forward to talking about them in my June wrap-up. So get excited for that coming next month. And so I'm going to share real fast my DNFs. So like I said, I had gotten into trying thrillers. So there were a couple books that I started first before reading Don't Go Down There, but Don't Go Down There was the only thriller I ended up finishing. So that was The Forgetting. I just was not having a good time with it at all. It was interesting, I guess, because it was like this one girl wakes up in this hospital and it turns out like this guy is her husband, but things are being very weird. And then there's this other girl, she has this new husband, and so she's been on maternity leave for a little bit, but then this husband, his mom comes, and it's just very weird, and like both of them feel trapped in things, and it was just feeling very odd. But also the problem was it was so boring. I was just like, I don't care. Like, even if it's the best twist I've ever seen, I just couldn't care less. So I stopped at about 31%. It was just so boring. So it's like, so much for a thriller, you know? I mean, I just don't get how there are people that are giving this book such high ratings. Just doesn't make sense to me. And the next book I DNF'd was The Book Proposal, which is about this romance author who has writer's block and she gets back in touch with her unrequited crush from high school, and it was just so bad. Like, it was so immature. There were so many gross things the author was describing. It's like, why would you put that in your book? Like, I'm sure it's embarrassing enough if someone goes through that, but why would you write it? Like, it was just weird. And I was not having a good time at all. I was very disappointed because I just happened to see it available. It was like a new release, so I was like, okay, I'll give this a try. I was like, nope, this is not good at all. So I stopped at about 25%. I couldn't take it anymore. It was just terrible. And the books I have in progress, which is books I didn't end up finishing, but I still plan on reading, is The Housemaid, which is a thriller, Don't Let Her Stay, which is another thriller, and Superman Dawnbreaker. And Superman Dawnbreaker I had started reading for my most recent video, which is Read With Me for 30 minutes, so I'll definitely link that down below in the description if you'd like to watch that after this video. So The Housemaid and Don't Let Her Stay, I think The Housemaid, like, I'll still give it a try because I happened to see, I think it was Rachel Catherine, she had talked about it and recommended the book, so I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. Even though she was going through that book super fast, I'm not quite intrigued by it yet. I hope to get back into the book, just right now it wasn't working. And then I started reading Don't Let Her Stay, which is about this wife. She has a husband, and her husband had a prior marriage, and so he has this kid, but the kid, she's estranged from him and hates him, but then she comes back into the picture, and then really bad things start happening because of this daughter, and it's like I think it could be good, but just at that point I hadn't been quite hooked on the book yet. So maybe eventually I'll get back to it, but right now I'm way more feeling the interest to read dark romance over thriller and other things, so I think that's what I'll be doing. And Superman Dawnbreaker is about Superman as a high schooler, and those are all the books I read or attempted to read in the month of May. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, comment below, and if you liked this video and would like to see more bookish content, be sure to hit that subscribe button. See you guys next time. Bye!